right, you guys. Hi, I'm here with Alexis Rose from Ascension Diaries. She is a psychic medium and a space weather researcher. She's got like the most amazing channel. You have to go watch it, and she will teach you what you need to know about the sun in particular, which is really amazing. Okay, so hi, Alexis. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you. And nice to meet some new faces. And I'm glad to see you again after our event that we just hung out at. It was very good. It was a good success. So a lot of stuff has happened since, though. We've been moving really quickly into the new year with lots of
I met
goodies.
you in December in Sedona, and like and since then I downloaded the Space Weather Live app. And so starting in January, it was like bam, 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 bam. Like I'm like, is this normal to have this many solar flares? Because they're every day, like all the time. So
no, it's not normal at all. It was very exciting. So you jumped in at the perfect time when it was relevant. So I'm glad.
Yeah. Okay. So like, let's talk about this a little bit. Okay. So, I mean, X-class flares are not exactly that common, and we've already had what, 3 or 4 this year?
I think so. Yeah, at least.
So, I mean, how many flares have we had? Like, it's like,
well, I saw 50 on the list already above a C5 that we've managed to do so far. That was already 2 days ago, which we've had flares since. So there's more. There's like, maybe we're up to like 70 powerful ones, 60 powerful ones we've had in like 12 days, 13
and that's
days.
more than like all of last year, then, or close. It's
last year, quantity wise, there's way more that we have yet to like catch up with, but power wise, pretty close already with the levels that we were that maxed out like last year. Our best from last year, we're already almost lapping that with strength of solar flares that we've had in January. So we probably will see more strong ones again in April is my prediction this year, because that's when the last strong ones were. So last year was the record. It was April. So I don't know, where I'm getting a better grip on watching the years go by now. So it's been easier, but it's been a lot of catch up for me until the last few years with the sun, especially the astronomy side of things has been kind of like the last giant shove. And now I'm doing astrology as well, like shoving that in there too, because it's the sun is shooting stuff off in directions of other planets. And as a psychic medium, I'm getting information now about like, oh, this one was for Venus and this one was for Jupiter, and you perceive that. So I'm playing with that concept more, I should say, as I perceive it with my diary and pursuit in this myself.
so how long have you been looking at the space weather?
I started really seriously doing it in 2017, and then 2018, even more seriously, like publicly putting myself out there to gather data from the people, because I was noticing the online stuff wasn't working out. There wasn't enough data for me to be a hermit and scientist, like hermit scientist. We needed the study group basically to get feedback so I could see what was really going on in areas where the data was just getting cut off. It was being turned off, not publicly available, and then turned back on hours later. So that's also when I would get a billion texts, from all social media, all these new people who never talk to me. They're like, Alexis, what's going on? So I know people are watching, and they have me in their mind for an emergency like that too. So that's cool.
So what is going on with the amount of, like, I started screenshotting all the blackouts that we have, because it's kind of like we're getting blackouts every day. Like we've already had a blackout today. So a radio something blackout.
Oh yes, yeah, from the solar flares. Yeah, we have like radio blackouts.
What is that about?
It's basically saying that the radio signals aren't carrying properly because the solar flare is like making that layer of the atmosphere nice and loose. And so the signals for the radio, for military radio frequencies and stuff, can't carry. So it's like a weird classification they use to signify that we're being radiated on Earth. They use that system to measure if we're having a problem or not, if the radio signals are carrying on Earth or not. It's like archaic almost, in my opinion, when they use it, but it's caused by the solar flares. And then the blackouts of data just happen all the time, usually around solar flares too, I assume, to hide actually the intensity of the solar flares, and kind of the narrative and the data is not strong enough to be like, oh yeah, we're solid. There's a lot of pit holes and missing parts, especially during solar flare time.
Especially,
Honestly, I'm surprised it's not worse right now that we haven't seen more data blackouts the last like week since your phone's been doing like blowing up. I've just been waiting for everything to just like crap like it usually does, but it's been keeping up somewhat, like nothing too intense. So I
well,
have
and then
hope.
they have those blackouts with the data of the Schumann resonance stuff as well. So there's
Yeah.
are they usually around the same time?
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, I've figured that one out because that was so frustrating.
Okay,
Brutal.
so the Schumann resonance, so how important is this to us? Like how important do you do with researching that? Because I know I also downloaded that Schumann resonance app as well, but for me it's like, oh, there's a lot of activity, there's no activity. I don't really know the points of. I have a hard time. I mean, and also as soon as I learned that Schumann resonance is basically like the lightning strikes ionizing the atmosphere. I don't know
Right.
why. I'm just a little bit like, I don't know if that is what it's the sound the earth makes, right? Isn't that supposedly the sound the earth makes? And it's in such flux. And I have a problem that it's only measured in Russia and Italy. That's kind of weird.
Right. That is weird.
Yeah.
Just those countries were once famous for other things, in our history over here. So it is funny how the sciences we're leaning on them instead of our own country giving us any of this data. You'd think they would,
Yeah.
but it's been interesting. It is important, in my opinion, and in the study, because it is the sound in our walking atmosphere, like from the surface to the ionosphere, which is where we live. So we've developed in this particular area. I assume stuff that develops under the water and underground, they have a different experience with, and there may be deeper frequencies of the earth that are more important there. But it seems like for us and our brain waves, the Schumann resonances are important, and it is due to the lightning and our basically this like brain of the upper atmosphere popping around that our brains connect to. So we know when to sleep and we know when to hide, and we know normal environmental cues, and our brains are tuned into all of it. And if they shoot us out in space and we're away from that noise,
Yeah.
causes chaos. I guess also deep underground in like Faraday cages and like contraptions where they can isolate it, people go crazy. So that was a cool part of the study, how it is essential for your brain, for your function. It's also other planets can have these conditions also. So life with brains can experience this on other planets, and how we would go to another planet. Also, I think about that, how that's possible. We might be more flexible as beings than we realize. We may be interplanetarily like adaptable more in our bodies, but we don't really talk about that. But it's a thought I have as the science kind of checks out. And it is simple, but I watch also on the charts that measure that frequency range, which is called the extremely low frequency range from 0 hertz, which is no energy, to 40 hertz or 40 rotations per second of a particle or a frequency
Which
in
is
that area.
40 is like the base level where a human can hear, right? Anything below 40 hertz, humans cannot hear.
That's interesting because the decibels is how I think about it too. But yeah, it's similar measurements and stuff, similar work. And I actually don't know that off the top of my head. So I feel like, oh my
Yeah, I mean,
God.
I had an interview with John Cadman, who's like really interested in the subterranean chamber of Great Pyramid, and he was saying that it was giving frequencies below 40 hertz, below our audible range. And so
Right.
then like as we
Yes.
start looking into some of the wells and stuff, they also do like play in that range that we can't hear. And there's a lot of movement and power that can happen from that. So
I agree. That's so crazy. Awesome. I didn't even, very, very interesting. And it's cool because we are living in a resonator that's doing the same thing. Like our planetary atmosphere, it's doing the same thing with those extremely low frequencies. We're affected by it. We can't see it. scientists are saying that it's not at a strong enough amplitude to have an effect on us, but it's like there's nothing else competing with the planetary amplitude really in our environment other
like
than the
it's our
sun.
base level, so of course it's affecting us. But
It's
I
strange to
kind
argue
of
otherwise.
think about it in terms of, well, I mean, is it the same uniformity around the entire planet? Like if it's changing in Russia and Italy, like you would think it may have fluctuations and waves based on, like, whatever, like seismic activity, or where there are currently storms, or where it's light, where it's dark, where where stuff's going on. Like there's like the Schumann needs more research, for real research.
Yeah. I know, I assume that it's all been done. It's interesting, but sometimes I get the sense that it has not been done as
No.
well, like you're saying, which is weird because you'd think, oh, well, they're just suppressing that science. You'd need to know that to do the physics, to do all this crap and advanced technology. Like you'd need to know this. You'd need to know how to mind control people using the same frequencies their brains are using, the same frequencies in our planetary sphere. It seems to all be like, oh, this is kind of a simple science. And they have HARP in Alaska, and they have CERN doing frequency stuff, creating false frequencies. They're showing us there's these grand arrays and these things out there, things that are public. And then there's the non-public side of so much more that just gets to keep operating while there's the public disclosure side of particular companies. But I'm watching these charts, and in Russia and in Italy and in these areas that have strange political and scientific connections to the North America and where I'm from, and how they're buzzing their population. And it's physically seen on public data. I can see some machinery, I have to assume sometimes, is radiating or doing something to the people. And it looks like a machine's doing something amongst all of the more organic looking data that's clearly coming from cosmic radiation. Then there's just very mechanical looking inserts. And I just feel that a part of what I do also is to protect people from some sort of
Other
nefarious technology or energy manipulation that's some people who are trying to do, I assume, to entertain their curiosity with certain levels of power and lack of empathy potentially. And it's like I feel like there's like watchdogs also being like, okay, things are getting a little bizarre, and then they either shut it off from us to publicly look at it, it seems like, when I start complaining, or it starts to chill out. And the sun as well. Like I've noticed the sun, and there is an intelligence also. Like when we start getting radiated, when there's too much solar wind, blah, 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 people start complaining. I notice there's like a break, and it will release. There is like an intelligence, I feel like, coming with like an ebb and flow. And we are, I think, unconsciously creating a lot of what's happening as this back and forth of our own consciousness growth and remembrance, or something that's happening to kind of reclaim the solar system mechanics, I would say, and how frequency is working in our solar system. And I'm already thinking about how it's engaging with other solar systems. And I saw your email, actually, that you emailed me a while ago when I was checking my email, and you were talking about being a starseed and how you also connect to other star systems, and that's been a part of your awakening. So that's just who I end up chatting with all the time, because we're feeling weird here, and your DNA may not even be from here, all of it. Like you weren't grown here, so maybe you're actually uncomfortable here. And so watching the conditions here helps you adjust while we're adjusting to living here, some of these souls potentially. And I think about these things too, that I'm monitoring, why I'm monitoring all this. It just feels very multi-layered, which you can imagine.
I also think about soul, like the sun itself is a consciousness, and like, and I think about, well, basically, like, that's interesting how it's almost like how, like we're going through something with it at the same time. Like we're in its like, field or feeling it. And I wonder if there is any kind of mutual benefit or mutual relationship going on as well. But then part of me has this feeling of, like how much of what's going on is being manipulated, and how much can we trust the data, because it's coming from a nefarious type source in some sort of, not always, but sort of. I mean, for all intents and purposes, we're governed by a one world mafia of some sort of fuckery. I don't understand what exactly, to the nuance of whatever. Everybody has different theories on how, to what extent, but
different theories on God's plan,
Yeah. So then but I think like, well, like, like for instance, that sunspot in New Mexico, like observatory, I think it was in, maybe it was in 2018. Like they just rated it and shut it down
Oh
for a
yeah.
while, and then all the solar observatories went black for like 24 hours. I remember thinking about that, going
That
like,
was wild.
wait a minute, that's crazy. And we never talked about it again. It was like it's just like not a
I'm
thing.
surprised you remembered, honestly. Nice. Yeah.
When I was like, something major is going on right now, and like we just completely uh yeah, like no one was looking at the sun for 24 hours. And it was weird, very weird.
Yes, and I'm curious, like, what was that? Was it machinery on Earth that they're like doing something to the sun with, that they had to shut it down? Was like, stop shooting the sun with this laser? Like, what are you doing to the sun? Like, was it, which way did it go? Like, who was in trouble there?
Right. Or were we really getting some crazy things happening from the sun and they didn't want us to
Yeah.
know about it? I mean, like, I don't know.
2018 for sure. I mean, I've had multiple discussions. I mean, I'm sure we're going to have more, but 2018 was a big one for a lot of people in the community being like, I think I died, or like, I think solar flash happened. Like, I think that actually may have happened, and how people's consciousness perceived some of that energy from the sun on 2018. I have data too, but I was more naive then. I didn't know exactly where to look. I was still just starting.
Mhm.
So
I
I
think
wish I
like
could have been. It's
2012
going to
and
happen again.
2000, or actually maybe that eclipse was pretty big
Yeah.
opener for people. Was that 2017 or
17.
18? Yeah. It's weird because certain people come online at different times, and
Yep.
yeah, it's really weird to see like what your activation point was, or like our time frame was, like where you started going like, hey,
Yes.
something's going on here. I don't exactly know what, but, and that's all that means by coming online. It doesn't have to be any more profound than like you just start questioning the paradigm.
Yeah.
So what do you think about okay, so I heard you say something about how like the biggest X flare we got was in 20 like
Mm.
or 2003 or something, and it was like a X 28 or
Yes, I remember I was doing some research about it and I came upon the article. It was something, I believe it was in, yeah, 2008 or something, or like 2003 or something. And it was not an Earth facing flare event. It was like they're trying to predict what it was doing from a satellite that wasn't even directly looking at it. So it's not very helpful. But it was like kind of vague, like, okay, so you kind of eyeballed the measurement, and they're like, yeah. So it was kind of inflammatory. It seemed like the data wasn't that clear, but still super powerful. And we lived. I mean, you and I were alive when that happened, and
yeah.
we're fine. So
So then what do you
wonder
think
what planet it hit.
like the Carrington event? Like obviously we weren't really studying it like back then in the 1850s, but like when the Carrington event hit, it shut off all the telecommunication thing, and it also changed the weather for a year. Like, that's when Frankenstein was written, because it like rained the entire, I mean, it was like it
Oh,
was the summer
nice.
of no sun or something. I can't remember what they called it, but it, yeah, like the whole entire weather was on the planet was like very rainy and dark and what for a whole year. And so I think to myself, I'm like, well, I
Do you
wonder.
think that was the sun, or do you think that was a cover up?
I don't know, because it was before. I mean, I don't they would have, I mean, they probably have had technology more advanced than we know of for a long time,
I
but
wonder.
yeah, I do wonder if it maybe they were intentionally doing cloud cover so that, like, obviously it was a solar flare, like it's a confirmed solar or coronal mass ejection that hit the planet at that time. So I just kind of wonder like what X class that would have been, like what range would that have been to have affected us that much.
Maybe, yeah.
And
Maybe it was like super crazy.
I mean, and that's like only 150 years ago, so, or maybe a little bit longer. I mean, like, so
Right.
if a Carrington event hit us today, that's kind of game over for a lot of our satellites. And
I mean, geez, like just the other day on the 9th, we had that X 1.98 class, and I had people messaging me saying that their vehicles were like stopping, and like they're having problems with the computers in their car. And I was just like, oh, that's not great. Like,
Well, on Wednesday,
oops.
the I guess,
And the planes, yeah,
yeah,
being
the
down.
FAA, and you know what? Like, I'm a flight attendant, and so they they
That's right.
they shut down, like they haven't shut down every airline like that since 9/11.
Yeah, I was
And then they're like, "Oh,
wondering
it's a
that.
computer glitch, y'all." And it wasn't like that long. It was a couple hours that it shut down, but it was like, "Wait, what? You're That's
I
pretty
gotta
big."
line up those times. I'm pretty sure we had this M5.5 class flare when that happened, but it was more like direct at us, I think. That's my one guess. It might have been that one,
So we
but
get all of them instantly, or is it like, sometimes there's something like that, some of the plasma like sparks, like some maybe take how many days to get here?
it's
Like,
like a total of on average 3 days max to like get all of the slower moving, denser energies rolling past after the immediate like electromagnetic like flash that we can just like see, but it's more like static. It's almost like a static cling, and it's just like fa-ching, and it just like hits us and we can see it, but it's just like they're very hard to see because it's not physical as much as the
wait,
other light. It's like a super high vibrational, multidimensional light. I don't even know how they capture it on camera. They're like maybe trying to capture gamma or yeah, cosmic rays or something. They're pretty crazy. It's super underrated, I want to say. Super underrated what solar flares are. It's fascinating. But now I'm just kind of sick of them after the last few days. I've just been like, okay, like
another one and another
I
one.
want to take a break to think. Like, give me a minute, but it's
So,
got more to say.
okay, so besides like solar activity, do
Mhm.
you also like, what do you think? Like, okay, I think it's weird that we have the Aurora Borealis going on at the South Pole and the North Pole at the same time. Like, technically, that's not even supposed to be a thing considering you have the 23-degree tilt. But like
Yeah.
for me, I wonder like, what do you think about the Aurora Borealis in general?
It's really thankfully it's a spiritual thing as well. So there's that weight. I would say it is to me it's almost like friction burn. It's like visible friction burn from the solar wind entering into the poles,
Mhm.
and we're just seeing this friction and chemistry in the atmosphere, but it's electromagnetic, and it will cause our own bodies to experience friction, and a lot of people struggle when the aurora is pretty bright. I've noticed it's more of that. It's more of a test, I would say, for the soul. And there's a lot more pressure. People fight more. Some people fight during the solar flares, like they get like flare-ups between each other, and then they're also like super annoyed and like exhausted with each other during the aurora, because it's that solar winds, like that heavier energy is pushing past Earth. It's causing all this friction and this light. Yeah, it's like basically it's just so much friction is creating light, it seems like. And then there's the spiritual aspect where you can sort of see the layers of the earth's atmosphere sort of collapsing on themselves, which is like multiple dimensional spiritual planes and so on. It seems like the higher up we go in the atmosphere, there's different like ceilings and beings and spirits that can live in those higher vibrational planes closer to the sun technically. And all these layers of the atmosphere ahead of us like bounce off a lot of that higher vibrational light. They just like reverberate it out, and that's what a lot of the spraying does too, I assume, is kind of kicks those cosmic radiation out. But I think it's also protecting us from the denser stuff that's getting shot out that would tear us apart more, bigger denser particles and so on. I think that's why they
Okay,
do that.
so what do you think about the spraying? Because like I
It's annoying.
it's crazy too, because anytime I've got a couple of shots of stuff like being sprayed like in the air, like when I was flying, and like I've gotten planes like that, or
Oh, nice.
yeah, and like I'll put it on Twitter, and I'll have like oh, it was
What?
the Asperger's guy who'll come up, what's his name, is Mike West or Mick West or something. He's a big skeptic guy. Or I'll have people that audience be like, ever heard of contrails? Like, okay, I mean, there's literal bots that you cannot talk about chemtrails at all online, because they will just shut you right down. Like, it's and like I love taking video, because like I travel all over the country. So I'll be like taking pictures of, you know, people, current places that are getting sprayed. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's like super crazy. And I mean, I just think it's just like super obvious, but so many people are still in denial about it. And then, um, I don't know, like, I wonder, like, okay, I had a friend recently who told me that they're spraying arsenic and radiation. I'm like, "How do you spray radiation exactly?"
Yeah.
And so he's like, "No, they're spraying arsenic, and then there's another group that's spraying something else to counter." He's like, "There's 2 groups going on." And I'm like, I don't know how to confirm or deny any of this stuff. I do know how to be like, "Okay, they've sprayed us today."
Yeah, that part is like a little easy. You're like,
Yeah.
thanks, guys. I'm seeing the literal 50 lines of cross hatching of happening over top of where I'm at right now in Phoenix area. And it's over the populated areas. Like they do it over the population.
Yeah.
They don't bother doing it over where it's less populated because that's why I assume it's people related. It's definitely people related what they're doing. And I do think it is to protect people from the radiation. I think it's to protect the nanotech potentially in people also from being killed off or whatever from the light, literally.
Mm.
And I also think that there is the 2 agendas, like your friend, potentially more. I mean, usually creation loves to just populate stuff. So there's probably more than 2, but 2 where it goes one and then they correct. They fly over each other and correct each other. And the radiation thing is interesting you said that because I had recently gotten a dream about how radiation is a problem and we are needing to I'm taking iodine now. I had to order some to deal with the radiation and blood. The blood clotting issue is due to the radiation issue, which could be what's happening and being instigated through obviously the herd medicine or like whatever this is, this aerosol herd deterrent. And then they fly all their aircraft above all of this and they can actually create cloud cover and then do a whole bunch of stuff over top of the civilian population and be totally out of conscious awareness unless you're one of us and you're curious and you are technically existing in more realities. You're an active dreamer, astral projector. You care about all those layers because you're using them all. So
Yeah.
I think the more conscious you get, the more you care and you're paying attention to all the realms because you're like, you want your windows of opportunity not to get screwed up too as you're astral traveling, I feel like. And there's like a personal investment of keeping our realm and our home safe. And
Well, and I also
active.
think that there is weather manipulation, right? Like, I
Of
mean, at one
course.
point they have admitted to putting barium, that was one of the chemicals I've heard of, that are strontium and barium or some sort of thing like they could like basically little tiny metal particles in the air that can help them to charge particles to create clouds. You know, like
Yeah. The clouds. It's funny how obsessed we are. The weather is all of it. It's everything. It's like such a big crux of our world is the weather. And it is caused so much by the sun too. And so it's like they have to work with this raw, organic force as well and utilize it and do chemistry with it. And it's this bizarre
yeah,
dance.
it's super
And
weird.
it
It's like,
from the distortions of us like trying to connect. It's very weird just to see how we've evolved and reading the science. And you're just like, ooh, like, where's the femininity? Where's the soul? Where's the spirit? That's I mean, that was the class of people they tried to wipe out, basically. This hyper
so
masculine, hyper analytical mind.
one of my superpowers, and I don't know that if I'll keep this in or not because like I'm not so sure I want everybody to know what my superpower is,
Right.
you know, but like I was born with the ability to control weather. Like, and so I was really, really good at it when I was a kid. When I went to puberty, it went away. It slowly has
Hmm.
come back online, but never as good as when I was a kid. But like essentially there is a sentience to the air, to the sky, and you
Yeah.
can like it just by acknowledging it and tapping into it, just kind of like you could talk to your dogs or you could talk to your like, you know, like there's ways to connect with things like, you know, trees or something like that. It's the same thing, like there's a sentience to the air itself. And clouds are kind of like a manifestation of its personality whenever it comes together. And um
Oh, I love that.
yeah, I I was always kind of like, I would just telepathically be like talking about like, I bet you can't rain harder. I bet you can't stop. You can't, and like I'd like draw out where I wanted to get lightning. And I was a kid playing, I was having fun with it, right? And it liked it. When I became older, not so much, as it didn't really like me as much. But uh I like sometimes call on sylphs, which are like sky fairies. And like when I see a lot of this stuff, I I and I assume there's probably a lot of me's on the planet. But I do a lot of air purifying. Like I call on a lot of helpers to come in and like take all of their stuff that they've done out. Like I do,
Nice.
and I don't even mean to do it. It's just something I've always been doing since I was little. I would just be like, interesting. Like, so I witness it and I just go like, nope.
Yeah.
You know,
Goodbye.
yeah. So I think there's probably a lot of people like me on the planet. And like,
I
so
think it
I
must
probably
be
won't put that
instinctual.
in because like, I don't want the enemy to know who I am, really, honestly.
I
I don't
understand.
know. Yeah.
I've well, actually, it's funny. I've tried to make videos about my abilities to move the weather, and I've had injuries. Like I literally got smacked in the face when I was filming the last one. I remember, so I didn't even bother doing it again, trying to explain how I do it. And then I like hit myself in the face so hard and started bleeding. And was like, okay,
Wow, that's a good sign.
yeah, this happened to me a few times now. So it seemed I'm only stoppable with a couple like injuries. They just had to, I feel like it's the only way to stop me. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I better not push it.
I mean, what like I've been told by other friends who are like good friends of me are just like don't publicly let people know that because
What?
we don't know who everybody is watching. That's the other thing. So I don't know. And like there are people like Ted Owens and there's some people like that who were like known weather manipulators that like the
Oh,
government came and like took away and killed. Like,
sure.
so it's kind of like you're like, oh, okay, that one you might want to keep to yourself. But and like tell people in person, like I tell people in person and I tell anybody in person how to do it. Like I could teach
Right.
you how to be done. Like it's not like it's specific to me. It's just, you know,
Mhm.
I just it's just something I remembered coming in. That's
Yeah, I'm glad for the sylphs. It seems like they really have stepped up and been there for people for this. And the dragons, I know people work with the
yeah,
dragons and
yeah.
clearing the air too. Sometimes people see dragons, sometimes people see angels, sylphs. I don't know. Lately, I've been kind of, after that hit in the face, it's definitely made me think different. Been like, okay, maybe I've been more in an observational role, but I do notice naturally I'll go inside or outside. Like today, I have not stepped a foot outside, but it's covered. It's clearly enough to bounce off the solar energy today, which is what I predicted in my video. So at least I'm getting a hang of it too, where I know when they're going to spray because I know why they spray. I know what they're avoiding and could be good stuff. Like we might be really needing what is being
Protection.
bounced away. And you and me, but what that is deadly to a populace that maybe his outweighing you and mine desires right now or need. It's like Gaia also is allowing certain levels of things to go on. I've because I've had to have these conversations with her basically because I'm like, why would you let these little bugs, these little ants, little tiny beings, do this to you? Like you're humongous, and the sun's watching everything. Like everybody knows, like it's not like we are a hidden factor to the planet or the the
Yeah, no,
sun, in
we're
my
part of her.
opinion.
So why is she, yeah, allowing us to get
So
out of
I've been
control?
like, what's the deal, girl? Like, what's your wisdom here? Show me. And it was just like, I'm protecting blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't even know what and who you mean. Like it was beyond my comprehension. So it's like there's populaces she's loving on here that I don't even perceive or I'm even engaging or knowing about yet. I think is what I've gotten. So just
Yeah,
been
I mean,
polite. I've
and
been trying to be more polite.
I think that there is something to like I think that there are like realms and stuff that exist on here that are in our
Right.
visible like vortex, like that we could see. Like I, for example, one time not that long ago during 2020, I was in the park and me and my little niece were walking and I heard this little rustling and I looked over and there was a little dude like a foot tall and with a little broom like sweeping leaves. And I was like, oh my God, stop. And then like my niece stopped and I was like, do you see that? Do you see that? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, what do you see? What do you see? And she's like, a little man with a broom and a hat. And I was like, really? Okay, yeah, me too. And then like so I'm like looking at it and we're just going and they're like, don't get I'm like, hello, hello. And it would just stop and it was like it would never look at us,
You
but I
talked to it and
yeah, I
you
talked to it. And I was like, like, hey, we're not gonna hurt you. Like, hi, how are you doing? Or what are you? Blah, blah. And it never would look at us. And it would just as soon as we'd start talking, it would just like freeze. And then it was like blinking in and out. Like it would go invisible and invisible,
oh
invisible and invisible. And then like I think when it thought that we would gone or we didn't talk anymore, then it would start sweeping. It had like I don't know, it had like a bushy like foxtail thing or something on top of a stick that was acting as a broom. And it was just like sweeping stuff. And I just remember thinking it was like the movie Predator where it was going in and out of visibility.
oh
And I thought, okay, well then we really are in dimensional realms. Like there's other things here that are here. They're
right.
just we cannot always perceive them. Um, so I don't know. Like
I know we're just like stomping around ignorant and just like stomping all over these like realms. It feels like sometimes like we're the clumsy idiots.
yeah,
Sometimes it
we
feels
really
like
are. And I mean like that I
they're
don't know.
just so civilized, sweeping, like just ignore them. Just ignore them. She'll leave. Like,
I don't know what that was. I don't think it could. Yeah, I'm not so sure he could see us, honestly. Um,
oh,
but yeah, so that was interesting. But
cool.
I thought I also think about inner Earth beings, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely sea beings. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's
Mm-hmm.
mermaids or what, but there's underwater creatures as well. That is probably maybe even more populous than us because the ocean is 75% of the planet.
And then there's the inner oceans.
There are the inner oceans. Yes. We're
I
only a fraction of what we know on this thing that we're calling Earth here. We don't know what else
and
is.
it is funny how then we pretty tiny compared to the planet, but we have figured out ways to have massive impact, like these drone planes that fly and spray over massive amounts of sky, like your whole sky somehow for a whole city. We were like, oh, and we were able to engineer something like that. And all of somehow, again, then the politics in the other realms, there's something allowing this too. It's weird. Like, if there's like elves who are super advanced, there's still allowances. Like, is there areas where the elves are like, absolutely not? And where do we move to go hang out where the elves have been like made the treaties? Like, where are the treaties where we don't have to look at the sky spray? Like, I would like to figure out where that is. That would be nice.
Yeah,
Like,
but I mean, I feel
who's
like
got the link? I'm trying to find the
it's
spot.
an evolution that's happening in a way because like there's this latest thing I like heard about yesterday. I think I've heard about it a couple of times now, but like 6G after 5G is supposedly
Oh,
talking
good.
about using humans as the antennas. Like we
Oh,
are
the
the
disclosure. Love that. Very good.
yeah. So, because
What?
and we have
We are
Chris
an antenna of
but we
information.
are already an antenna of electricity if you think about it. I mean, like you can like radio waves go through you. I mean, like you can do those experiments with like the
Very
energy
cute.
sticks and our pineal gland really does like not just like woo woo stuff. I'm talking about like an actual like if you cut it open and look at me, like it literally has like those like little tiny crystals in it. I mean, and the crystals are amplifiers and like we are an antenna. So they're
Mhm,
thinking
mhm.
about like, and there's something about how like they talked about like we'd have to wear like copper bracelets or something. And then that would
Huh.
be the thing that would power as antennas for the 6G. Sounds like a horrible idea to me, but like at the same time, I'm thinking like maybe this is like the next step onto how maybe these other people instead of just being telepathic because they're just like naturally awesome, maybe they really do have like these kind of technologies that allow like maybe they're all wearing like copper earrings and that's how they're telepathic and I don't know.
Yes, I feel you on that. And sometimes I find jewelry in the wild and I'm like, is this a tech? Like, what is this? Like, what can I do with this? Or even a stone or a rock or something. You look at it and you're like, I bet you this is more than what I think it is. But then I feel dumb because then I'm like, and what is it? And it just takes that other, like, I feel like it's just a lack of imagination or something. Like we've been blocked enough from our conscious, like, expansion abilities that we feel limited sometimes with these things, but they're all our things, right? Like,
Mhm. I
uh,
mean, the rocks, I do think the rocks are like portal keys and all
yeah,
kinds of they're I hear rocks a lot. That's like a thing I have, and
sweet.
I always pick them up and be like, "You're coming with me," or "Okay, oh yeah, okay." I get it's being the electric guest that gets to like Harvard or give you a home for or rehome you for a minute, and then like who knows what's going to happen after I die, where you go or what's going to happen. They've been around for so long, and they probably will be around for so long because they're just so indestructible, like rocks in and them of themselves. And like I think to
Yes.
myself, like they really are the memory keepers. They are the holders of what's coming, what's gone, and what will. I mean, they're amazing, but I think there's actual ways that they've been manipulated into technology in some ways that we don't even know about.
Yeah. I mean, dang. And then there's all these like ethics and morals that I think about this stuff too, like manipulating rocks into being a technology for some sort of other intelligent race. Like it's slave labor. Like what's going
It's
on? Like,
because they are sentient, and I
right.
mean, there's a sentience to a stone as well. And like I have a memory of being a rock, and
Hmm.
like basically like when you're a rock, it's like you're a rock for the entire duration of that planet's existence. And it doesn't feel as long as you think it feels because you perceive time differently.
Totally different.
Um, but yeah, that is interesting because like I sometimes have um like I have a big rock polisher, and like I make like cabs and jewelries and things with stuff, and I'm a big rock hound. I like go places, but I have this like I have a sort of like ethics about like I don't want
Right.
to like blow up or like if the earth's surface, if it came to the surface and it's there for me, then it's there for me, but I'm not going to go destroy the earth to find it,
Right.
even though I have bought things that I think are pretty much mine. But
Yes. Somehow that was approved though, and it happened. Like, oh, and even though it was atrocious, somehow it was allowed. And but why? It was like the gain is bigger than the cost or something. Like that energy needs to be redistributed and you're not going to do it, so we're going to have these guys dig it out because they aren't thinking it hurts as they're like digging it out of the earth like that. I feel like would be painful. I feel like it would be hurt the earth almost to like rip it out of its home where it grew like this crystal, but it's
I
being
mean, I
done.
also feel like it's this is a gross analogy, but maybe it's just like a blackhead for Earth. It's like we're not
Maybe.
going that. I mean,
Could
she's
be.
way deeper than we think. Like she's way
Maybe.
bigger. Like it's this we're just surface level stuff.
Yeah, there's just like scabs and
Yeah,
little hair
exactly.
follicles.
Exactly, like on her body. So, this is I did not know
Could
this was
be.
gonna go this way. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, so what do you think is that we are to expect?
Well, I think we're to expect this becoming a popular culture topic, which is good. The solar flare tracking and the geomagnetic storm aurora tracking. People just being more interested in the Aurora Borealis just naturally, spiritually. I assume it's just going to keep waking up people spiritually, this solar experience, which is why the sun gods and the religions and everything, and just to be scientific, I think it is because it's just the most powerful electromagnetic body in our reality to us. So it is dictating our life and our environment. And that's just the case. But something's dictating our star's environment, and something's dictating that. And there's like a cascade of strength and power uh, just knowing your place amongst that cascade. I feel like also some people struggle with knowing that place and being at peace with that. And then there's people who are totally lost because they have lost that place, but they want to go there. They want to be there. And I think I help people find that place again, find their rhythm again, because they were just raised in the the culture where none of the normal rhythms were being executed. Basically, it was what's the word? Inorganic, domesticated herd, I don't know, schedule and pharmacy and feeding and so on to keep us from our power and from being disorganized. Like in life, if you just let life go, it'll just like create and do all this crazy stuff. But it seems like there's been this grander agenda to try and organize us like energy in a computer chip, like just moving us around on these grids and harvesting our energy to make bigger grids and do these other plans. But all of that seems to have now lost its integrity and it's collapsing. So it's like there's this need to go back to the natural rhythms because nothing else is sticking like it used to. Somehow it used to have enough power to like pull us magnetically into that way of life and it wasn't as painful. But now there's like less traction. People are falling away from being able to disassociate into the matrix life. It's forcing them to step up and take care of themselves again because it's failing. That machinery is becoming obsolete, and it could be the solar flares just knocking it down and over the years, and it's just not being publicized. But some things, some particular energy weapons and shit maybe just doesn't work. It just can't operate in the frequency we're in. And there's like minute frequency shifts that is happening on the earth, but I can't see data about it. But with those machines and this dark, like the magic even of frequency manipulation, because it is magic that gets to the magic realm. When you get there, it's like, I think the magic is changing. The conditions where the magic is being done in are being changed by this grand master, like the sun. And there's like nothing we can do in a way to stop it unless they like leave and go to a less affected from the sun area to keep doing this like energy harvesting experiments and stuff. It's
interesting you say that, because I have noticed within my own self within the last couple of years, I don't know exactly when it started or whatever, but yeah. I almost cannot watch movies anymore. I mean, I can't watch TV, like normal TV. I just don't have I don't have the attention span to sit and watch somebody else's Joseph Campbell, same story narration, like go on and on. Like I would really rather like whatever, watch a YouTube video educating me on any minute subject ever. Like, you know, then
wander some sort of like archaeological area.
I literally look at pictures of stones all day long.
Yeah.
It's like crazy. Like yours is space weather. Mine is like megalithic architecture as like my obsession. And nice. You know, it's one of those things where a lot of people would be like, you find this interesting? And I'll be like, it is the most interesting thing in the world. But
because they're the real record keepers and stuff. The true knowledge is stuck in there.
And we have a history that has been hidden from us. That's just and like there's physical evidence that there was a global advanced civilization that was connected before they're telling us it was connected. And like there's hallmarks that can show you that that's the case. And you're going like, wait, why aren't we talking about this more? This is weird that we're not talking about this more. And but anyway, so my point with that is that I feel like whatever programming spell that was put on us, it just isn't, like you said, it isn't holding that much anymore, because I'm just kind of like, yeah, like really don't care about that anymore, you know.
Yeah, it's not pumping that adrenaline like it used to. We're sobering up from this like what's fever dream that we were raised in as well, hyped up on the drug that was that emotional psychological operating thing, and these circuits of our cities, and going to school and waking up at this time, and people have to work during these times, and these days are off, and all of the days off had nothing to do, a lot of it with the natural cycles. So no one was getting
And
any
it's
proper
really
rest.
weird.
Just a state of
I've been
burnout.
focusing on solar solstices and equinoxes. Like I've
Yeah,
been
of
really being
course.
conscious the last couple of years about like what I'm doing on those, I mean, if nothing else, it's the longest day of the year and the shortest day of the year. And it's like, and it is the marker of the new season that you're about to enter. Like you should
And
pay attention.
every megalith you probably love is built
It's
or
built
around
around
those
it.
dates.
Exactly. Yes. And then I'm also really conscious the last couple, in 2019, I did this thing where like I fasted for 72 hours on every full moon.
Ooh,
Um,
interesting.
I can't, I can't do it anymore. Like now I'm like,
I've
like
seen this. It's
I'm
like
getting,
people can do fasting for a period of time and then it's like, oh, and then it's like a different, you've like done something and then you got to go to the next
yeah,
thing.
you got, I mean, I can fast for like 24 or 48 hours now, but like the 72-hour thing all of a sudden for me has been very
Different.
yeah, it's just like it's painful. It's like I don't want to do it. I don't like it. Whereas in 2019, it was like ain't no thing. It's like, yeah, okay, no, not a problem for me. It was fine. So maybe I'll get back to that or not, or I don't know. But
Yeah.
the thing was is like I was really that got me really conscious of the moon's phase always. Like I was always knowing what phase of moon it is and all that
Right.
stuff. And I think that it's so much more natural to start looking into your moods and the moon. It's
Yeah.
weird how there's a correlation to, like full moons are way more emotional than a new moon in my experience within my own personal self. And sometimes I'll be like, why am I okay, well, where am I on my period and what's the moon and what's going on? And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, we're good. It's just,
All of those things are matching up. So
yeah, that's what that is. But so I mean, because we are part of this natural cycle that we're being artificially taken away from. So it is interesting
yeah,
to like get back into that for sure.
thankfully, yes. And the moon is so funny because it's even another installed potentially thing and cycle that we've just had to adapt to. But we have to adapt so we don't go crazy and like we can keep our energy efficient, I would say, in the system. Like keep some of it for our own things. The moon.
What do you think of the moon? Because I totally feel watched by it. I love the moon, but I totally think that it's artificial and put there. And like, I feel
Yeah.
like something's watching us from the moon.
I've had multiple dreams about being in the moon with survivors, I want to say, from survivors of an imprisonment sort of situation and survivors from like people who are living in old prisons or old structures in the moon that they're just barren. Like it was abandoned. There was just like people stuck there as well, like trying to figure out what they were going to do, like a colony almost like this, like a moon colony. I've seen that multiple times. uh have you ever seen the Thor Marvel movie where have you seen that, and they have a device called the Bifrost and
Yep.
it's they travel via light through this thing? I saw that in my dream. I was shown there was one of those on the moon, and that's how they like get to Earth and back. Like they could just like shoot through this light beam basically.
Oh, okay, like the Rainbow Bridge thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how you shoot back down from the moon to Earth. And I was like, okay, but
I mean,
it's
there's something going on
so
because
much,
we
so
went,
much.
we put 12 people on in like 1969 to 1972 and then haven't gone back since. Like that's
Right.
weird if we even went at all. But I mean, like it's that's over 50 years ago that since the last person touched the moon. Like putting a drone is not the same as putting a person on the moon. So
Yeah,
it's weird.
a little robot. I remember when China did put a rover up there a few years ago, and then we just didn't really talk about it after that. And then
They didn't show us anything in it. They showed like one image when it landed and then it went black. And then I was like, because I was super excited. I was like, oh, let's go, let's see a little like moon landscape, like let's get into this. And nope. It was just
nope. And then right around then was also Oumuamua came out, and that
yeah.
was another monolith floating through space, whatever that is, and all of the drama behind that and these objects and stuff. Like even the NASA models where they're showing objects, there's a interactive models. I showed it on my last video, but interactive models of the objects floating around, and there's all these other dwarf planets now they're adding that are in the outer field more so. There's multiple that just NASA's just saying, oh yeah, and now we're tracking these dwarf planets as well in our solar system. And it's just that's happening. Like, of course, yeah, just track those
Except
big
they're
rocks.
like they demoted Pluto so that because like Eris showed up and it was almost the same size as Pluto, so they demoted it. And so you're kind of going like, okay, now they're like they're basically not going to give us planet 9, 10x, or I mean
No,
it's I don't know. We're have to kind
they're
of
just
figure out.
naming them now. Like, oh,
And what do they call them? Exoplanets. So it's not a real planet. It's
dwarf, yeah, they're
dwarf.
like little dwarf planets and stuff. Like, there's one like make I don't even know, and there's just names I've never seen, like Homua or something. I gotta look them up, but I'm just like,
Oh,
what's the
Haimea,
story? What's the story? Yeah, Jaime are, and then the
Cirrus, Sirius.
astrologers know, the great ones. And oh yeah, what do all these little bodies do? What are their personalities as well? Like, how are they in play? And then what other celestial bodies are going to just start showing up as part of our map as we
Yeah,
go on?
and like, and I never forget the fact that it's like, we think of ourselves just circling the sun, but the sun is circling inside the Milky Way, which is circling inside another galaxy, which, it's like on and on and on. So there's
Yeah,
no telling what other things can come into our realms, like
exactly.
at any time, because it's not like we're on a stationary fixed. I mean, unless we're in like a giant simulation matrix, which might be the case, but presuming we aren't, then yeah,
Right.
other things could totally like coincide with our you know
Yeah.
our cosmology. So yeah.
Yes, and the secret space program stuff was fun for me because a lot of them would talk about activities in the solar system, outside the solar system, kind of giving me a more space to imagine and work with in my own mind to kind of expand and get that expansion and see what's possible and what's not being talked about. And a lot of it resonated with me. I
Mhm.
think I'm very aware of the other human curiosities, these breakaway groups and experiments and so on that have happened and also have collapsed on themselves, and those souls are here rehabbing and remembering these other experiences and stuff, and merging all these stories and dramas of our solar system and potentially like parallel realities as well as now
Yeah,
becoming a part of it.
and
So it's
time
like,
travel, like interesting, like
yeah,
time lapsing, and yeah.
so there's like multiple realities as well you have to think about. So we're just learning about the physics of this one, but then there's just like the parallel somehow are accessible next to us. And I still, I like, I had a lot of visions about it, and now I've been trying to find the English about it all these years to explain the things I've seen, and then wondering if it's even real. And then seeing a lot of misinformation and power and ego and fear when people are also trying to make sense of it all themselves. And when they get a piece of it, they want to share it, but then they're scared they're not going to be taken care of by this piece that they're offering the community, that they're channeling for of truth, that they're kind of remembering for us to advance with. And I've seen a lot of it's been painful and complex. So it does beg to wonder, like, all of these moving bodies and all of this solar system drama, it just makes me think about it more, and how we're getting our heartstrings pulled on and our emotions and our fears all the time by these moving celestial bodies and stuff too. We're just being like pulled on all the time by these big moving bodies nearby. It feels like we're just immersed in this web of tension
I
and
Yeah,
clashing.
and
And
sometimes I go like, well, and how much is free will and how much is destiny from all this stuff,
yeah,
like how much of this was bound to happen, because of the celestial movements, and the heartstring pulling is crazy. Like I totally um resonate and see that. I mean, it's I have like I've had a lot of visions of the moon marooning like in 2025, or 2026 latest. That's
Is
like
that like going away from the planet, you mean?
it looks
I've
like
seen it too.
in mine. Okay, so here's what I've seen. Like
Okay.
I've seen this
Maroon.
in a
It's a great.
QHHT session. I've seen this in dreams. I've seen this when I was a kid.
Oh my
Like
God.
this thing has been seeing, and it's very specific on, like, I've had blue ball beings come into my room and talk to me telepathically and tell me like what's
Wow.
gonna happen. I've had all like this weird stuff, and like I'm not saying this is 100% gonna happen. I'm just gonna tell people what I have seen, and then
Just
you do
tell the
what you want.
people.
Okay, here you go. I'll tell
It's
you
up
what
to
I've seen.
us.
It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means that this is an interpretation of a thing that I don't really know what to do with. But anyway, the thing is like I have seen the sun turns into it be like, okay, it's like this yellow little ball like this in the sky right now when you're outside. Okay. One day it starts growing and scabbing and turning, like I could call it maroon because it like looks like the color of maroon, and it looks like it's got scabs on it. It looks like a blood scab, and it's like 4 or 5, 6, I don't know, it's way bigger in the sky than it currently is, but it's
Whoa.
less, that light is less intense. Like it starts scabbing over and something's happening to it itself. And it's when our sun changes, and our sun never goes back after that. And what happens is that like the sky, all of a sudden the sky starts having like rainbow borealises,
Uh-huh.
and it doesn't, our colors aren't the same after this. Like we have a different visual light spectrum comes into play, but we're fine. We don't die. We're okay. It's okay. We're not going to die, but we change forever. Like, and it, like the sun changes. The sun is not stationary. It's about to go through puberty or something.
Uh-huh.
That's what I've seen. I mean, but then like,
Nice.
the blue balls were a little scarier because they were like telling me, like in 2018, they came to me when I was in India.
Oh, good.
And yeah,
Dang.
I was in India, and I was in this bed, and like I had a friend in a twin bed, like in the same hotel room, and like they did not wake her up, and they woke me up, and like they would just like come, like they turned into a watermelon. They looked like a basketball, came in, turned into a watermelon, and I could see the silhouette. And they would just, there was 4 of them, like 2 on this side, 2 on this side, and they would take turns like showing me movies. And it was about, like, I even hate to say it, but because I don't want to put fear in people, but don't be fearful. It was just like, it was about how there was the earth was about, she was ready for like a change, like it was like a shift within her, like she's going through puberty or something, and another phase of her life, and she's about to flip poles, but and like the earth itself is like going to kind of shake us off her back. And like there's they were saying that they have to be able to see us to help us. Like they can't, if you can't be seen, and it's not personal, like you're good and you're bad. It's more like you're the vibration at which your cells are dividing is like, if it's below a certain threshold, they can't physically perceive you. And so anyway, it has to be above a certain threshold for them to perceive you. And then they will like they will take us off planet for 4 years, and then wait for the land to solidify and the waters to settle, and then put us back. And this is all with the new sun. That's what I saw. Okay, I'm not saying it's really going to happen. It could just be some crazy imagination stuff. Maybe I'm having weird past life memories, or
Sure.
I don't know, but that's what I know.
Well, it may be your specific memories that's allowing you to even perceive what could happen, because some people have never seen it before, but you may have experience, so you're getting it better. I feel like maybe that's why it's like you can comprehend it more, because that's very fascinating. Like for sure, I'm thinking of all about that. Whereabouts for 4 years, did they say?
So for me, I know that I am like I am not allowed to leave. I have to stay on the planet. And like, but I get my family to safety. But I have to stay with the earth. Like I'm an earth like guardian, or I don't know what I am. I'm some kind,
Right.
I'm part of the experiment that's on here.
Yeah.
So I think I'll be okay. Like um I'll be able to like handle the sun. And I am scared about the liquefaction of the land underneath my feet though, but that's why I've
Yeah.
heard, like, I think I've kind of been getting hits that like Arkansas is okay and the Ozarks are okay because they're on a crystalline grid. They're like literally, like if you go into someone's driveway or you go into like anywhere, like there's just all kinds of like quartz crystals underneath there, which I
Right.
believe is not like, if there's a really bad earthquakes, it won't like, half of the reason I think all of these sites across the world are buried is because they've gone through like a liquefaction. I don't think it's like sediment just slowly buries them. I think something sunk them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
So that's something I've been thinking about a lot. Anyway,
Nice.
I don't know.
I'm
But
trying to think too, because when we have the visions, it's also like you're seeing a different layer, but here it looks different. I've noticed also, it's like we get a different version of it in this reality versus what the visions were shown
mhm.
sometimes. So,
And it never
is there
happens exactly as it looks,
is
because
there
like,
any? Oh, I was like, is there any way it started in 2020, that 4-year period? Did you get any validation or hit about that?
they're very specific that I think it like they physically start taking people in 2024 to
Okay.
2026.
Okay.
That's what I just, those are dates that I've known those dates since I was in high school. I'm
Well,
40.
that's kind of what I've been telling everybody. Like, okay, well, the solar cycle 25 is going to be peaking. Say those years again. Like, that's exactly when. So, when we're supposed to be peaking. So, will it peak and just like peak and just keep just like expanding into some magenta uh chakra? Like, I'm up for it. I mean, I was looking at the specific color magenta today. You will laugh because I was making actually quite a deal about this magenta piece of paper. I was like, my eyeballs love this color. Like, why is my brain picking up this color so much? And I was playing with it. I was like, why is this so vivid? Like, why is this color more than any other color? Why is my brain love this
Yeah.
color so much? I was just going on and on, like making a whole joke out of it. So this is funny. It's like, oh, Alexis, maybe you should pay attention. Like, this is probably, you should definitely think about this some more. Like,
Right.
hmm, interesting. Like magenta, you say, like weird and huge too. Like when the stars do lose some of their gravity or whatever, they do expand in size. So that's a maturity thing, I think, when the like core starts to break down its strength. And they've been trying to tell us it's losing its strength, the sun, I feel like.
Mm.
And so I
Yeah.
was wondering about the solar cycle. Like, if the sun's losing strength, it'll be less powerful than last solar cycle peak, which was around 2017, 18, I think. So we'll see. But it might just be it. Like, that might just be it. We might just be enjoying a few more Zoom calls just for funsies before 2024
Right.
it comes around. So just enjoy 2023, everybody. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I
get
mean,
used to magenta. If you don't like it, see somebody. It's about to change. Or you could go get right with God or your ET contacts and
but
go.
here's the thing is like, I think that it could just be like, because I think that like it's not like, I don't think end game is end game. I think it's like
Yeah.
it's just a change game. It's like the game's changes at some point in our, like, I don't know, we didn't come here to do nothing. Um,
No. If they gave you the whole thing ahead of time and you're just all locked and loaded, ready to go, like that's pretty special. That's pretty cool. And the blue orb beings were, in my awareness, major cat or I want to say managers, I would say, of the solar
yeah,
shift.
they said I'm of the builder race. Like they
Right.
used that term multiple times. And
Nice.
that I'm a plant. I'm planted here to help calm down the population when it happens.
Right. I very
And
good.
there
Thank
are
you.
a lot of us. Like when I saw there was a lot of us who were like me.
Right.
Yeah.
Just it's gonna be fine. We
It's going
built
to be
this.
fun. Yeah, exactly. And it could be nothing. I could just
Yeah.
be crazy. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, why am I telling people this? Because like, yeah.
But you feel it. It's like over telling anything else. It's such a, I mean, what a moving experience. No, not many people get four orbs telling them and showing them movies and not have a total freak out, dissociative PTSD for the rest of their
See,
life,
I'm just like, who are you guys? Are you this voice of God technology? What is this? Why are you doing this to me in India? Like what,
Yeah.
but I mean, at the same time, it's like, I know I was part of them too. Cause like, I wasn't scared of them. I mean,
Interesting.
but like, I've had visitations from beings my whole life, like it come into my room and physical and stuff like that. So it doesn't bother me. It doesn't scare me, but,
Mm-hmm.
I guess it would, I don't know why it's the thing
Because you
is,
know what you're doing. You've been
the
doing it.
thing is people get really scared of stuff, and that's why I don't think they have experiences, because
Right.
like fear is like a thing that makes it to where I'm not scared of a demon and I'm not scared of an angel. I'm not scared of anything. Because here's the thing is like the one thing we got in common is that we're both existence at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care who you are or what you are. Like, what do you want? Let's talk. Like what? Like it's like, okay.
Agreed. Yeah. And sometimes they'll behave, and then sometimes, oh, they're going to have a harder day. You maybe let them sleep on it and then come back and see if they'll behave next day. Did you learn your lesson? Okay. All right.
But so many people, I think, like they want to see something, but they're actually really scared. And that's going to keep you from seeing something or having an experience or having a,
And it's also like, what some things are they expecting to populate for themselves? It's everybody's got a different something too, as well, that they see more of or work more with. So some people are just scared of I feel like they're just scared of an aspect of who they are or what they created,
yeah, that's a
hiding
good
from
point.
themselves.
Yeah. So, so what do you think, like we're going to turn 80 and the sun's still going to be going strong? I hope so. That'd be interesting and
I'm
nice.
curious. I am. It's kind of come to that point where I am bored. I'm getting to that point where I'm like, yes, I know the sun. I know what's going on. We're clearly all waiting for movements, shifts, things to happen. A lot more people have woken up since last couple of years. But I did watch the whole unexpected, I would say, unexpected rollout of the medical experiment. And the downloads I was getting about it was obviously because they connected it to the same name, the corona of the sun. So I was waiting for the solar energy to shift or cause some sort of global shift. And then this is what happened, and they named it corona. And then I was like asking, like, what is going on? Why is there such a en masse thing to engage with what this technology is and put it in their bodies? And it was about it. I just kept seeing it was about the solar shift, and it was about the beings who were going to need to leave, who were going to need to be looked after during those years
Oh,
of time. And their
that's
soul, it's like their soul knew that this was their ride. And so that's why we can argue with any of these people who felt they needed it based off of what we knew could do to them, their bodies, because it was like their soul knew, like this was their way. This was their way.
yeah. And my soul knew I didn't need it for the whole
Same.
time. Like I didn't even have to think about it. It was just like, no, like I don't need that. Like it's
And
just very
then
interesting.
we almost got a pre-departure. We got to watch everyone buy their tickets basically to the departure and then watch their soul already begin leaving. A lot of people like detach from their soul to another degree and are leaving this almost automaton version of themselves, even less soulful than before, walking the earth in their stead. So like I feel like a piece of them did maybe get out of the way or was moved for this. And we're just seeing it in super slow motion, like what they're doing to what is happening to
Yeah, like
us.
they're becoming NPCs intentionally. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it's like we were going to miss them so much or something, so they like left their bodies here for a while longer for us to grieve and
That's a good point.
process.
2020 was a huge grieving. Like I lost like not like physically, but like
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean family members, best friend, like literally like exited my life in a way just because I wasn't more scared. Um
Same.
like just kind of crazy, and I was just like, where is I could not have written that. I could not have written how crazy that happened.
Right. I feel you. I was wondering how that, like, it was a miracle. It was like the prophecies were coming, like, there's something coming. It's going to be global. It's going to basically bifurcate you. You're going to be two populations. They're going to be two different thought forms. They're going to be in two different worlds. And you were like, how? What is it? What's going to split us? And it was so like, it was so like, I was expecting it to look like, but it made sense. Like it kind of hit all the windows. It was everything's obsession. Now, thankfully, it seems like it's cooled off, but everybody got their treatment. I think now, by now, like who's ready to get their ticket and get to safety, their soul to safety, I guess, out of the soul or the sun's way. And then I think some family members also took other roles to support the migration and the movement as well. So people you may not have been expecting to take the ticket, but it was because they were working or they've become like a manager of that situation, or they've chosen to look over that situation with their soul. And that migration, it feels like too, like with my family, some of my family members are pretty awake and then still engaged with the technology. And I was just, and I got dreams and explanations in my dreams, like, this is what's happening. And it was like, oh, you're shuttling souls around and in and out of the sun on these plasma ships. Like there's energy movement that's like energy harvesting on purpose and moving it and placing it in other places and keeping souls safe and bringing in new souls as well who are ready for this place. That's what I've been seeing. It's been kind of wild, but it's helped me feel better. I knew it was bigger
Yeah,
than
I
just
think
a sickness.
I had to really, I mean, understand and grieve and know that like it's like and if you watched it was like moths to a flame. It was
Yeah,
oh,
it
even if they
was.
were manipulated because of work or something else, and they still they chose. And the thing
Yes.
is that it I made it I kind of it had to step back and kind of be like, oh, okay, so like this was they in some kind of way it felt predestined, like this was they chose, this is how they were going to go, like, and there was nothing I could do, there was nothing I could say, there was nothing I could show them, or um
No.
yeah, and so like I will be very alone at some point. I don't
Yes,
have
I think we're
I don't
dealing
know if
with
I
that
have
now. We're kind of getting the footwork done in the soul family, being like, we need new families.
right.
We're making new families now because ugh, a lot of us have lost a lot of people.
Yeah, 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 crazy. This is just so crazy. And but the wonderful thing I think that is happening now is like, even I think even people who bought the ticket, I guess we'll say, I
Yeah.
like the way to word that. Like they're starting to realize that there was manipulation. Even they know that there was manipulation. And so
Is
that's
the
kind of nice.
return policy on the ticket? What's your return? Is there,
Yeah.
can you get your money back on the, can you exchange it for another flight? Like you would know probably more than me, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I actually don't like I have had like some recent okay, so like let's just go down into this little rabbit hole here and we'll see if I keep it. But
Okay.
okay. So I have gotten really into microscopes. And I used to be really into telescopes, and then now I got really into microscopes, like and researching them, and then being like, how do we know what DNA looks like on a microscope? And then you get into like the spectrometry. It's like the where
Spectrum.
they don't go below 25,000. Like that's the furthest you can go, and then after that, anything below that, they have to basically use like a different light, and it's like lasers, and it's like the machine, and it's not, then it becomes digital art. And it's and I actually think it's kind of like BS at that point. And it becomes this thing
Yeah.
where, we cannot at that point, like when you start looking at the DNA and it's got, like it's 4 different layers, it looks like, like 4 little different nubbins, like beep, 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 beep.
Yes.
Like, and they'll be like, oh, this is the A, the G, the T, the C, or whatever. We can't like be like, I'm physically poking out the A's and the B or and the T's, or I mean, what we can do when they say like, oh, you use amino acids and stuff, they can chemically damage certain receptors. Okay, cool. So they
Right.
can play around with but like we watch all this sci-fi stuff and like the way they talk to us, and I've also noticed in life, anytime something's like too convoluted for you to understand, like for example, after 9/11, it was like, oh, like the whole war in Afghanistan and Iraq, it was just like, oh, it's just
Oh.
so complicated, so many moving parts. I'm like, if anything's too like crazy for you little one, you don't understand because it's just so nuanced, it's so complex, and there's a level of bullshit going on. Okay.
Yeah.
So I
They love to
finally,
brag.
it is. And so I finally was going, okay, um, we don't really, I mean, we used to call it junk DNA. We don't really know what the hell to do with it. Like, so do I actually think that like they can manipulate our RNA and change it permanently and do I think, I know what I
They're
think this
hopeful.
happened. It's all hopeful, like a bunch of sci-fi geeks who are like thinking that they're playing Elysium, or, playing some sort of Gattaca thing, or like, but really, and their whole CRISPR babies and all this shit. They just
Hmm.
put a bunch of heavy metals in a bunch of people. I think that's what happened. And yeah, it's not healthy, but I think some people, like if you really bought your ticket and you want to like try to help yourself, go do a bunch of heavy metal detoxing, like do a
Yeah.
bunch of fasting, go
Yep.
do like take a bunch, there's all kinds of stuff for look online for healthy metal detoxing. Go do a ton of sweat lodges or a ton of sweating and saunas, and like get all that shit out of your system. Do a lot of colonic, like go do some like cleansing,
Yes.
a huge detox. That's what you need. And you'll be right. You'll be okay after that, I think. I mean,
Yes.
because
I
it's not
feel that
like,
too.
they're spraying us with love here all the time. I mean, like sometimes I think we all need to be doing detoxing from the amount of stuff that's being put on us. But so I don't think I buy into the fear thing anymore of like that's like there's going to be a mass kill off. Now, hey, when you inject a bunch of heavy metal in your veins, you're going to get blood clots and die. Okay. So if you want to like really think that there is something, go detox. Like that would be a good way to do it. But,
Mhm.
and I also now I'm sort of started thinking like with this 6G stuff, maybe that is the setup for the antennas.
Right. Exactly. I was thinking that also. And it is funny, like we want to cleanse, and then you have to even buy filters to cleanse, like to have the water that you're cleansing in
Yeah.
also not be a bunch of heavy metals reabsorbing right back into your flesh.
Yep. And
We're pretty porous.
we're very porous, and you're gonna have,
Pretty
and it's not
precious.
like you detox once and that's it, baby. You gotta be doing stuff all the time.
Yeah, and you'll get it, you'll enjoy the variety, and that'll be one of your top topics with your friends, if that's not already what you talk about at least once a day, probably with somebody, because that seems to be what I do now all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, waking up, that's like the first thing you're like, oh, I have to detox. Like I'm being poisoned on all these other things that I didn't even realize. So gotta cut that out, because that's for sure not helping the conscious life, your light, your radiance, your glow. Uh, I agree. And yeah, if you're already making a decision otherwise, like you don't want to keep doing the experiment, if you don't want to keep participating in the experiment of the medicines and stuff, you can just do some other experiment. You are the magician, the experimenter on yourself and in your life. So you're consenting to maybe what popular culture is offering you, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. And now popular culture has become creating your own culture, and now our culture is now becoming create your own culture. So create your own culture, help people get new different ways to purge. Foot baths is another amazing one I want to start doing more of myself. Like I tell people advice and I can't even actualize it sometimes, because these things cost
They
money,
cost
they
a
take
time, right?
resources, time, like attention. You forget and you don't order the thing, and then a few
Oh,
weeks
you
go
know what I
by.
just ordered of your, like I heard from you on one of your videos a couple days ago, is that scram. I got
Yes.
the parasite cleanse. I like
Have fun.
I just yeah, I just took 1 yesterday. I gotta take 3 today, 6 tomorrow, then 10. Yeah, so I'm gonna start a little parasite cleanse.
I'm so glad. Yeah, I would recommend that one. It's a decent strength versus one I took before that, which was lesser of a strength. And I tried retaking it and it did nothing basically for me. So
Just
once you start, you definitely have to keep upping it. But yeah, I'm glad you talked about colonics too, because that was another big one. Like everyone's got to
oh,
get all that
cool.
crappy that like old mucus and stuff and growths. And oh, my friend hooked me up to a machine with electric pulses into my wrists, like a little electrode on my wrists, and gave me a hit of whatever 10 volts of whatever frequency. And it was meant to just like kill parasites out of my body and like the
Ooh,
eggs,
that's cool.
the whole cycle, like everybody, you know. And some of the herbal stuff doesn't kill the eggs, it kills the adolescences. Some of it kills the adults, but not the blah blah. But this is just like shocking yourself so they die. I did half of the period of time it was like suggesting I did it, but it was fun. I was feeling the internal heat start to build after a while. You don't notice. And I was like, okay, I hope this is helping. Like, get it
Yeah,
out of
that's
there. Like,
interesting.
you
Huh.
know,
I need to learn more about that. I
I want to
mean,
get one.
so I'll tell you about so colonics, like I'm
Yeah.
40 now, and when I was 35, I had this lady come on my airplane, and she was flying as gets, and
Oh.
she was a like this beautiful skinny black woman, and I thought she was maybe
Oh.
like maybe 70, maybe 65 or something. She
Oh.
sits next to the window. Then no one's sitting in the middle, and then this other lady is sitting on the aisle, and it's like her. I thought they were friends. They looked alike. They looked like they were the same age, whatever. And so
Mm.
I'm like on the jump seat, like doing my thing in the city. She goes, "Can you believe my mama's 100 years old?" And I go, "Oh, are you guys gonna go see her, or what? Are you on your way to see her?" And the lady in the window goes, "Hey, baby." And I was like, she's like, "No, this is her right here." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "Hey, baby." And I was like, "You're 100 years old? You're 100 years old?" And she was like, "Yes, I'm 100 years old. I turned 100 years old in June." And I was like,
Oh,
"No, let me
was that
see
a
your
Gemini?
ID. I don't believe you." Yeah, I'm a Gemini too. And then she was like, "Yeah, I'm 100 years old." And I was like, I'm gonna go do drink orders, and I want to see your ID. Okay. So then I sit down next to her, and I'm like, she doesn't stink, and I'm sorry, like, but
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
but she doesn't
Very
stink.
good point.
She just was like, she could hear what I was saying. Like, she talked to me like a normal person. It was just like, what are you? I mean, I could not believe that this person was 100 years old. And I looked at her ID. She was 100 years old. And
Oh.
so I was like, okay, so then what? What is it? What are you doing? Like, how did this happen to you? Like,
Mhm.
what did you do? And she said, "Now, baby, I was fat, dumb, and depressed like everybody else until I was 65 years old." And I was like, okay. It's like, so what happened at 65 years old? She's like, "Well, my husband died, and then I started doing yoga, and I became a vegetarian. But that ain't it. That ain't it. None of that's it. All that took away stress, and that was good, but that ain't it." I was like, okay, well, then what is it? Tell me what it is. Colonics. And I was like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "You have to clean your gut out. You have to do colonics once every 3 months for the rest of your life." I've been doing, and I
Dang.
was like, "Oh, okay." And so I have been doing that since I've been 35 now, because I mean, if a person who's like the most
That was a
beautiful
sign. Yeah.
100-year-old person comes and sit downs and tell you what their secret is, you
And
do
it's
it.
colonics.
And it's colonics. Yeah,
Something so intimate in a way for a stranger to share with
exactly.
you.
To start sharing for me. And I was like,
Her
wow.
daughter like instigates it, like, better tell this girl about.
Yeah, tell about her. Tell her what's going on. And I was like, "Oh,
She
okay."
needs one. They could just tell, they were just
It's just
reaching out.
it's just so funny though, because like you never know what information you're gonna get, right? And then
No.
like if I've told other people that story, and they'll be like, "Oh, no, I would never." And I'm like,
And
okay,
you're
well,
like,
whatever, I'll
you
do that.
need one then, honey, because that denial. Yeah. And when people are like, oh, I don't want to take the parasite cleanse pills, I'm like, get away from me. Like,
Yeah,
what
because
does
you
that
don't.
even mean? Like, talk to you
I
never
mean,
again.
I think everybody should, like, I mean, other countries literally take parasite
I
cleanses as
know.
a precaution every year.
It's
Like
like
it.
it's like a family affair. Like it's part of their or yearly.
Yeah.
Like fasts, like people, they do fasts. So many of these
Cultures do fast. Yeah, you have to do things to
Americans have never fasted ever, like ever. No reason. Why would you ever do eat, celebrate, put more?
but it's like give your body a break
A
and just
break. Yeah.
feel your own cells like doing their thing, just chill for a second. It's okay, you're not gonna die. You are
I'm
gonna be
glad
fine.
the 100-old lady came into this episode and gave us that piece. That piece. Because I've not actually done a professional one before. So
Oh.
I
There's
would though.
ones that you go into where people are there, but then I don't do those. And she even suggested don't do those. There's ones that
I'm sure.
literally are like you're on a toilet seat kind of situation, sort of like more like a doctor's bed office. You insert everything yourself. Nobody does anything to you. Very uninvasive. It's fine.
Yes.
It's an
Yeah.
hour flush, and you will be very cleaned out and very nice, and you will feel hydrated for a week, and you just go about your business, and it's just amazeballs.
She was very hydrated. God, we're so funny. And I wonder, like, why is it that that's the solution for us? But it's because it's just been so overdone. Normally, we probably don't have to do this to our
Yeah, we
bodies,
probably
but
don't. But I mean, there's so much of like, I
just the
think that half the
90s,
stuff we
what it
might
did
be
to
eating
us.
plastic and thinking it's
Yeah.
food. I mean, like half the powders or the other flours, I don't even know what we're eating, if it's even food. Like some of the stuff we eat, like, and even if you think you're like being like, oh, I'm gonna get Mary's crackers, and I'm going to just be like the most healthiest, you don't know. Like we have no
No.
idea what we're eating sometimes, So I don't know. Like
Yes, that's amazing. We're just like, this is plastic.
I don't go out and cut my own wheat and mush it up and get it into the
Ugh,
thing. I don't go out and like I mean I do a little bit of gardening, which by the way is like really hard and I love it,
it
but
is
still it's
hard.
like, but like I'm not like making everything from scratch. I don't know the source of everything. I have to trust. There's a lot of trust that goes into what you eat
Yeah.
and who knows what's in there. So take precautions.
Do your colonic every
Do
three
your colonic every
months.
3 months.
I didn't know the time span either, so that's good.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna forget this story. She has impacted me forever. This
Yeah,
woman.
I
I bet
mean,
you she's still kicking too. Like this
she
wasn't long
probably
ago.
is because she's like because at 100 she looked like she was 70 and she
She
was
was ready for
perfectly
another
fine.
20 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Good. Good. I'm glad you like resonated with her too, because that's the thing too, is I wonder about where's all these advanced beings I'm supposed to like learn something from, but it's like if my vibration doesn't match theirs, then I won't perceive them. I won't mix with them. So you have to do the inner work to be able to match other cool people, but you've already matched them. Like you've already done the work in a way to match them. So there's not a lot you can like it's so funny to me. Like we'll put people on pedestals, but if you can physically stand in the presence of someone, you're pretty equal in vibration because there's such a
that's a good way to look.
variety of what we could be resonating at. So you resonated with that lady. She was a miracle of her own, but you were a miracle of your own, and you just like matched in that moment. It was like magic. It was probably just you coming to visit you.
Coming to visit
You're
me in
you're
another like, hey,
when you're 100, that's going to be exactly what you're going to look like. It's just going to be a whole transformation after the sun changes. That'll be your new body.
I really think that like even aging and the way you age, that's a limiting belief that's put on us, like
Thank God.
I've noticed so many people like my age who are just like, oh my God, my back hurts up. I'm like, really? I don't feel any different than I did when I was 20. Like I don't like
Good. I'm glad to hear
I don't know.
that.
I don't know. Maybe like no, nothing. And I'm not even going to put it into existence that it is something. I still have 20/20 vision. I'm
Yes.
done. I'm not doing any of like, whatever. I'll age. I'm okay with aging. I don't think aging's ugly, but it's just like I think to feel old is unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a choice you decide to make. And you focus on, oh, this isn't working as well. Let me focus on how horrible that is and blah blah blah. And then you know what? You'll get more of that.
Yes. It'll become your obsession, your life, your story, the thing that bores you when you talk to other people, or bores others, I should say, when you talk to them.
All right, Miss Alexis. So this has been a very, I don't know.
Thorough
This has been a very thorough. Yes, very
chat.
good, very good. We touched a lot of bases. Okay,
We
so
do.
tell us about where people can find you and give us some
Of
like of your
course.
last little thoughts and stuff.
Excellent. So, of course, I do psychic medium therapy with people. If you want to get any sort of channeled work and you need help with your advancement as a person, as a spirit, you think I can help you, you want to bounce off of me and get all my information,
So
my
how does one of those sessions
resources.
work? Is that like how
Well,
these sessions work?
we do a Zoom call like this, and I will basically ask you why you're coming to visit me, what's up, and just let you begin, just unfurling. And then obviously the concerns and so on will start to surface, like why you're seeking help from another person to get some sort of extra psychic info or like some ideas that you can't, you're just stuck, it happens. That's why we're communal. We need each other to like bounce off and get some other ideas. So basically that's what I'm there to do. And then once we started getting the idea of why and what's the emotional charge, what's your directive, I will do cards for you. I do tarot readings, and also I will basically begin channeling information. And a lot of times I will also begin seeing your dead family members because they're often a soul guide of yours. They're often in your aura. I would say they're often real close by. They have an idea, they have some info, and even they've been telling you for the most part all this stuff. But to have an individual who doesn't know you at all pick up that information and then tell it to you again, it kind of helps you kind of have your own confidence and faith back. I've noticed as well, that sort of back and forth.
Like a validation a little bit.
Super validating. And I will get random stuff that maybe no one would even think is important to the conversation too. So it kind of helps. It's like it's separating your ego and all of your judgments to have another wild being kind of being like, and this and this and this and this. And we record it all. I give it to the person, obviously, to review, which is mostly I'm working on lifting open and kind of reorganizing this issue or this density that a person may be having, and they want to get it worked through, and they don't want to talk it to a therapist because they're clearly, a therapist is not going to understand your galactic history either, because that'll come through also. Like someone will feel really lost just because they haven't engaged with their Pleiadian or their Sirian or their Alpha Centaurian, Alpha Draconian, like all these random aspects that seem to want to also be a part of a personality, but no one knows how to integrate them, or they feel silly. But I'm around alien hybrid people, it seems like all day, every day now. So for me, it's just common. I also get a lot of visions about past Earth lives. I get a lot of visions about that, where you were or what particular part of your bloodline is trying to step forward and work with you right now is another big deal. And whatever comes through, it's always something very uplifting, I would say, inspiring, interesting. People are usually taking notes. Sometimes I say even too much, and the recordings help, but it's just kind of like this big energy working episode that we do together to like work through your aura, work through your soul, and get to the bottom of it and kibosh some of those limiting beliefs that don't resonate with me, the things you're saying. Like if you say something about yourself and I'm just like, no, absolutely not, like stop. Like don't say that about yourself, like that's not what I'm seeing at all. I'm seeing this, and here's a card. It's, the card's saying the same thing, and sort of like that. It's like I'm fighting people's psyche and encouraging and nourishing it as well with my abilities to, I don't know, perceive extra than maybe other people do off of you, but I'm just slightly ahead maybe in that ability. And it's just going to become common for more of us to be able to see and perceive and what's the word? Consume, I should say, maybe the content of people's aura and understand them deeper and get those messages even from the beyond if there's any sort of blockage due to trauma as well. When someone dies, it's kind of a trauma. So it's kind of hard sometimes for that direct connection to be remade beyond the veil, but to have someone show up and be like, oh, your grandma's showing me this. And it's like, oh, and it opens up that heart again, and that trauma, like it repairs. But sometimes I've noticed when the heart shuts down, we don't notice what shut off. But then someone like me will say something, and then the heart will it'll open again, and you'll feel something, and it can just be subtle, but it could change your whole trajectory, lift your vibration. I think that's a lot of it. It's like I'm taking people and I'm lifting their vibration and shifting off stuff and density that no longer needs to be on them. It's like kind of like a cheerleader too. Like I often have people just smiling and just like relieved after, like being like, this was great, really good energy, thank you, I feel better. And I don't have too many return customers either, but they come and follow my work still and DM me random updates on their life. And I don't have any intention to make return customers with the way I do things. I'm just like very generous, and I just need the permission basically in the session. Be like, do you give me permission to do my full healing work and get all of my downloads and speak on you about all this? And
that's cool.
And I do, and I'm glad. And I have a 5-week coaching thing I'm doing too. So I have one person on right now. He's like 3 weeks into 5 weeks. He just decided to take a flight out and go skiing in Switzerland because I was like encouraging of it too, and was like, go ahead. And he's from like, he was in Utah and now he's having a vacation right now, but I'm still coaching him through this whole process too. And he's doing grid working and noticing amazing things out there, like dragon stuff and cool stuff. So, I just am kind of like a fun little helper. I should say easily. Alexis means helper, defender of man. So I just am doing that, and I have these abilities and I'm glad to share it. And I want to upgrade them more. The more psychic people I meet, I'm trying to upgrade my own abilities all the time, activate my DNA. I meet all these new people and they teach me new stuff all the time too. So it's a fun job because I'm always going to get to grow out of it too. It's not going to be boring. I love what I do, and I love doing the space weather, all this free stuff I do for people to talk about the space weather and everything, and all my channeled messages and whatever, just about the ascension and about our global movements and whatever is happening. So I just glad to have social media to have an outlet for all the energy I'm channeling out of me.
You are so funny on social media. The memes you put on are like,
thank you,
hilarious. I love your stuff on social media.
I'm giggling all the time.
Yeah. I'm like,
thank
where
you.
did she find this stuff? And it's not even like you put one funny thing up a day. You put up like 10 funny things a day. It's amazing. So yes,
I do wake up very early, so I get to collect a lot of memes in the early morning, and then I just disseminate them through the day when I'm like bored, which is fun. But if you want to get a session with me, you can go to ascensiondiaries.com. And then if you want to be entertained by me, you can find me on any social media you use under Ascension Diaries. Pick your favorite. And then I have a Telegram chat room that's free. You can join 24/7 for space weather updates and my like 24/7 group people.
Yeah, I'm on that now. I've been like watching it. You have very good updates on that as well. So
thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm glad you like it too. It's hard to keep up. It's like I've had to make infrastructure to keep up along with the people and what they want in the community. So that's been cool. And I'm just trying to do right by everybody and keep things flowing good. And yeah, I have a Patreon that helps me with the monthly free stuff that I do online, like social media videos, blah, blah, blah. I do patreon.com/Ascension Diaries, and I do a monthly Zoom call called Guardian Training on every 18th. I've been doing it for a theme of just like basically just like a energy upgrade about a particular theme, just so we can focus. It's a lecture about a particular theme meant to upgrade the Guardians or the builder race, basically, like squad or like those involved with the Guardian sort of role.
Cool. So, yeah, I'll have to join your Patreon and do that then. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's like I know. You're so delightful. I love it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I do too much or something. I was like, I know I do a lot, but I didn't mean to, but there's people everywhere. I'm trying to just like keep them happy.
No, and I think you're going to continue to grow and be awesome. And so it's going to be good.
Thank you. I'm not bored yet. So I have plans to keep going.
Good. Very good. All right. Well, we'll have to have you on again sometime. So thank you so much, Alexis.
Thank you.
Bye.